Hey guys, tonight we tumble into dust-choked air, the kind that tastes like rust and old secrets. You stand at the edge of a desert where the sun doesn't set so much as melt, oozing across the horizon like hot wax. A fleet of black trucks hums low across the cracked basin, their wheels kicking up bone-dry whirlwinds. No logos, no plates, just dust, diesel, and silence. 30 men step out. You count them twice. None of them talk. They don't look like soldiers, but you'd bet your last juice box they've been trained not to blink unless someone gives the okay. They stare at the same empty spot in the sand, and then, without ceremony, they start to dig. You're probably not surviving this one. By the way, just being here puts you on a very short list of people who know too much. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I always like seeing who's staying up with me. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shuffle a little closer, your boots crunching over forgotten salt flats as the men set up a perimeter. Steel crates unfold like origami into shelters. No hammers, no nails. Everything clicks into place like it's been rehearsed 100 times. The sun dips lower. A single man walks to the center, unspools a coiled hose, and sprays a strange chemical in a perfect circle on the dirt. Minutes later, the ground shudders. A hatch groans open. You blink. Beneath the crust, a shaft yawns into shadow. It's not a fresh hole. It's already been started. This isn't the beginning. It's a continuation. You duck down, peering inside. There are rail tracks, electrical cabling. The scent of ozone and damp metal wafts up like a ghost's exhale. Someone's been down here a long time. The man nearest to you murmurs, Phase 3. Then he vanishes into the hole. This isn't just excavation, it's exhumation. Whatever they're digging for, it's already buried deep, deep down. The funny part, there's no official record of this location, no coordinates, no permits, no satellite markers. You swipe through your phone, no signal, of course. As twilight kisses the sky, generators kick on with a low hum. The tunnel's maw is now ringed in light, like a surgical wound under inspection. Workers descend in pairs, always in silence. No music, no shouting, just the rhythmic clink of tools and the constant steady rumble of conveyor belts disappearing into the black. You lean closer, brushing your hand against a support beam. It's warm, not sun warm, internally warm. You recoil slightly. Is something alive down there? That night, you try to sleep near the trucks. You don't succeed. There's a sound you can't place, like water gurgling through a straw, but deeper and wrong. You close your eyes. The ground hums beneath you. The next morning, a dust storm rolls through. Visibility drops to a few feet, and yet, none of the men stop. You watch in eerie admiration as goggles go on. Helmets click into place, and the line continues into the earth. The storm screams around them. They don't flinch. That's when you notice it. One of the men, the same one who unsealed the hatch, walks past you. His uniform is wet, not sweat. It's a thick, viscous stain trailing from his sleeves and on his collar. A patch you don't recognize, a black triangle overlaid with a lightning bolt, stitched in silver thread. Your stomach knots. That symbol, you saw it once, briefly, in a museum placard about post-Waitut intelligence agencies. Experimental divisions, stuff the public wasn't ready for. Mainstream history says Operation Paperclip smuggled scientists to the US to build rockets. What they don't say is that some of those scientists didn't go to NASA. They went somewhere else. Somewhere subterranean. And if you're thinking, sure, but tunnels this long don't stay secret. Here's the twist. They weren't digging that all of it now. Parts of this thing, this colossal underground artery, have existed for decades. Maybe longer. The 30 men, they're just the latest chapter in a story buried beneath layers of forged maps, redirected funding, and fake mining permits. You stumble on a tattered document fluttering near the supply crate. It's half charred. Just one phrase is readable. Mile 407, reinforcement breach. Containment priority red. Containment. You glance toward the tunnel. Suddenly, the lights inside flicker, then go out one by one, as if something were traveling up the line, swallowing power. The men pause, just briefly, then continue. You don't sleep again that night. A fringe theory pops into your mind in the 1960s. The Soviets allegedly attempted to dig to the Earth's mantle. Project Mahol. The Americans called their side of it. Both were abandoned publicly, but a few historians argue whether those missions ever really stopped. What if those were just distractions? You check your surroundings once more. The trucks have been repositioned, and one of them has a cage in the back. Inside, what looks like a lump of fur until it moves. You back away. The desert is quiet again, except for that gurgling undertone, louder now. Closer. No one tells you to stay, but you do, because something about this feels bigger than anything you've seen. You're not just witnessing history, you're watching it crawl to the surface, and soon, someone else is going to notice, but not yet. For now, the lights flicker back on. The men resume their descent, and the ground sighs again as if adjusting to the breach. The hatch remains open, and you can't help but wonder if this is only the entrance. What horrors wait 1,000 miles in? You're up before the sun this time, not that it matters. Down here, in this wind-blasted nowhere, time is more of a polite suggestion than a fixed reality. The 30 men are already suited up, helmets clipped, visors down, each one sliding into the tunnel like ants returning to a nest they were never meant to build. You follow. Inside, the air changes. It's not just cooler, it's denser. Every breath feels like you're sipping soup through your lungs. The walls are lined with hexagonal plates, some humming faintly with electromagnetic buzz. This isn't rock. This isn't natural. You reach out and tap plastic, ceramic, whatever it is. It wasn't bought at Home Depot. The tunnel curves gently left, then right. It's never straight. A design choice. Or is it avoiding something? You catch up to a group, adjusting a rail drilling rig. No diesel fumes, no sparks. Everything's electric, battery powered, silent. You crouch beside one worker, watching his hands. They move with unthinking precision, like he's rehearsed this 100 times. You ask a question, just a casual how long you been here. He doesn't answer, doesn't even look at you. Later, You find a makeshift canteen nestled into a side alcove. One long bench, stale coffee, protein bars that crunch like chalk, and a bulletin board. Only one sheet is posted, a non-disclosure agreement, the length of a novella. At the bottom, 30 signatures. Above it, a sticker peels at the corner. A smiley face wearing night vision goggles. You smile, then you notice something weirder. There's a name missing. The sheet lists 30 slots, but only 29 are filled. One's blank, circled in red. You glance down the tunnel. Yeah, okay. That's not ominous at all. Back on the work site, you spot one of the engineers taking samples from the tunnel walls. He scrapes, seals, then injects a serum into the crevice. Moments later, the material shifts, liquefies, then hardens again. Self-healing walls, like bone. You shudder. That's when the alarms sound. Not blaring, just a soft, triple chime. Every worker freezes. Then, wordlessly, they begin sealing their gear, stepping back from the tunnel face. A red light pulses above the drill rig. You don't know what it means, but your instincts scream, "Get out." A voice crackles through the intercom. Not human, AI filtered, void pocket detected. Proceed with containment protocol Theta 2. You watch, stunned, as the wall collapses inward. No explosion, no noise, just a quiet crumple like crepe paper in reverse. On the other side, you glimpse something that makes your skin itch. Darkness. Not regular darkness. Not it's a cave darkness. This is deeper. It bends light, swallows it. Your flashlight beam dies as it enters. One worker reaches in with a tethered probe. The line goes taut, then slack. He pulls it back. Nothing's attached. They seal that breach, fast spray foam, hex lock braces, some weird expandable mesh that hardens on contact. In minutes, it's gone, but not forgotten. One of the fringe stories you read late one night comes rushing back, tales of void spaces buried under ancient Mesopotamian temples. Gateways, they called them, or sometimes cradle fractures points where the earth was never fully solid. Historians still argue whether those myths had any scientific basis, or if early explorers just got loopy on desert heat and bad wine. But this doesn't feel like a myth. The rest of the day passes in a surreal haze. Every few miles, the tunnel branches briefly only to dead end in sealed chambers. Some are marked with glyphs, not letters, symbols you've seen scratched into Etruscan ruins or hidden in the margins of medieval manuscripts. You touch one, it's cold and sharp, like frost. In one chamber, a mural stretches across the curved wall. It shows 30 figures, hooded, digging. Beneath them, a serpent loops through the earth, biting its tail. Ouroboros, the eternal cycle. The implication is clear. This tunnel doesn't just go forward, it loops. But that can't be right. Right. You spend the night in a fold-out bunk room, walls padded to soften the echoes. One of the men finally speaks to you. Just 3 words, whispered like a curse. Don't reach mile 500. Then he turns over and pretends to sleep. The next morning, you meet someone new, a woman in a lab coat. The only one you've seen so far. She doesn't introduce herself. She just walks with you a while, clipboard in hand, tapping readings from wall sensors. Her voice is calm, too calm. "We measure tremors here," she says, "but not seismic ones. They're rhythmic, almost like breathing. You raise an eyebrow. She adds, "The earth is not as solid as people think. It pulses, especially where it's been tampered with." You want to ask more, but she vanishes into a supply hatch before you can even get a name. That's the thing. Everyone here seems to know just enough to do their job, but not enough to ask questions. It's compartmentalization at a terrifying level. You return to the main shaft to find the rail cart ready. Today, they're sending supplies toward mile 100, and one person, no one says why. No one offers options. So you step in. The cart whirs silently forward. Lights overhead flicker past like falling stars. Your reflection dances in the polished walls. You try not to blink. At mile 30, there's a pit stop, a vented chamber where the air tastes strangely sweet, fruity, almost. You make a note to ask about it if you ever see the lab coat lady again. At mile 50, the track splits. Your cart takes the left fork automatically. The other path disappears into a thicket of static and shadow. You crane your neck, trying to see, but the cart jerks forward and your view cuts off. At mile 75, you pass a carved marker in the wall, a single word etched in clean, deliberate lines forgotten. And then, as you cross mile 99, the lights dim, just slightly, but enough. You grip the edge of the cart as the tunnel ahead flattens into pure shadow. Something about this feels off, not just dark, but wrong. You remember the void pocket, the tether that never came back. Then, in the distance, a faint red glow pulses at the tunnel's end, and the cart keeps rolling. The red light blinks slowly 1 beat, 2 beats, pause as if it's counting down to something. You've long since lost sight of the 30 men, the labs, even the last trace of sunlight. Now it's just you, the humming of the cart, and that gentle, almost lazy pulse ahead. Your fingers tighten on the edge of the bench. Mile 100. The cart slows, not by your command. It coasts into a small, circular bay walls ringed with strange conduits, pulsing faintly in time with that same red glow. The light isn't from a bulb, it's coming from the floor. You glance down and your heart gives a little skip. It's not glass, but it's clear. Beneath your feet lies another tunnel. Same size, same structure, just upside down, inverted, empty, no people, no tracks. But something glimmers there like dew, except dew doesn't twitch. You step off the cart. The air feels pressurized, like you've entered a vacuum-sealed chamber. Sound softens, and your own breath becomes the loudest thing in the room. That's when you hear it barely audible, but unmistakable. Footsteps, not yours, not boots. Bare, you spin, but see nothing. Still, the floor pulses on. A small control panel juts out from the wall out of place, like someone slammed an office printer into the side of a temple. A label reads, Transposition Node A3. You press a button, it hisses, whirs, then stops. Nothing happens, then something does. A section of wall melts away, not violently, just gracefully, as if stepping aside to reveal a corridor, smaller, more organic. And this one wasn't dug by machines. It curves like it grew on its own. You know you shouldn't, but you go in. Your boots crunch on a different kind of floor now. It's not rock. It's a composite of mineral and something fibrous, like seashells, but drier, dustier. The walls shimmer faintly, like insect wings, in the right light. Farther down, a room opens circular, domed, the ceiling etched with constellations you don't recognize. In the center sits a single chair, no legs. It floats, humming, bobbing gently in place. You don't sit. You're not stupid. Instead, you circle it, noticing something peculiar underneath the floating seat. The dust hasn't settled at all, as if the chair's never stopped moving, as if it's been waiting. You hear the footsteps again, this time louder, closer. You dart out of the corridor, back into the main tunnel, and now you see it. A smear on the wall, like a handprint. Human, yes, but stretched, warped, as if the hand had been melting when it touched the surface. You look closer. It's not blood, it's phosphorescent. You wipe your own hand along it, out of instinct or idiocy. You're not sure, and it tingles, cold, for hours after. The skin glows faintly under your glove. At mile 102, you rejoin a few workers. They don't ask where you went, but one, a tall man with a slight limp, hands you a tablet. It shows a live feed cameras embedded in the tunnel wall, cycling every few seconds. One frame catches your eye. Mile 312. Something's moving, not walking, crawling, large, slow, then gone. Signal degradation. Past mile 300, the man mutters. Visuals don't hold. You ask, why keep going if you can't even see what's ahead? He glances at you, deadpan, because it's still coming toward us. You don't sleep for the next 2 rest shifts. At mile 110, you reach the first of the bifurcation nodes, a control room made of brushed steel and chilled ceramic, where engineers monitor airflow, pressure, and oddly electromagnetic resonance patterns. One screen flashes every 66 minutes. When you ask what that's about, a technician shrugs. They call it the drumbeat. Nobody knows why. Another fringe theory from your memory lights up ley lines, those supposed energy channels crisscrossing the Earth. Most scientists dismiss them as nonsense, but a few geophysicists have speculated that tectonic movement and magnetic currents could, under the right conditions, behave rhythmically. Historians still argue whether ancient cultures knew this and built temples atop those lines, or whether that's just humans seeing patterns in noise. But here, now, the rhythm isn't just theory. You feel it. Every 66 minutes, a faint pulse. Your teeth vibrate. Your thoughts stutter. One worker vomits without warning and doesn't even apologize. He just wipes his mouth and keeps logging readings. Past mile 120, the tunnel shifts again. It's no longer uniform. The walls sag slightly, not from collapse, but from something swelling behind them, like pressure building behind a skin. Pipes groan in protest. One chamber is marked off with hazard tape, not yellow, but deep cobalt blue. Behind it, a doorway that seems to ripple. You swear it's moving, not opening, just breathing. A sign beside it reads, "Do not attempt to stabilize." This is a fixed event. Fixed event as in faded. You reach for the tape, and a hand stops you. The lab coat woman again. She looks paler now, eyes sunken, like she hasn't slept in days. She says one word, looping. You blink, like time. She nods, so sort of. Like cause and effect eating their own tail. Ouroboros again. She leans in, voice barely a whisper. We think parts of the tunnel have already been dug by future crews, or past ones, or maybe us. We're not sure which directions it's all running anymore. You want to laugh, but you don't. You just follow her back to the main track. By mile 140, the cart no longer runs. Too much magnetic interference. You walk, and with every step, it feels like you're slipping further out of sync with the world you knew, like reality is bending. You pass another mural, this one hidden behind loose paneling. It shows the 30 men again, but this time, they're inside a circle of flame, holding cables that vanish into the mouths of animals, wolves, snakes, and something that might be a whale but with too many eyes. Your hand brushes the wall, warm again. This time, it's pulsing in sync with your own heartbeat. You look behind you. The tunnel is empty. You look forward. Something waits in the dark. And it's not the end, not even close. Just the start of the long descent into where this whole thing started and maybe never ended. You keep walking. Your boots crunch softly on the synthetic dust, some combination of pulverized ceramic and maybe, disturbingly, something organic. The tunnel walls have changed again. They're no longer smooth. They're rough, almost veined, like the inside of a throat. Every 50 steps, a faint vibration stirs through the floor, crawling up your spine like a whispered dare. Mile 150. The numbers here are painted, not digital, crude, hand done, as if whatever systems once tracked this part of the tunnel failed, or were abandoned, or were never installed because no one expected anyone to come this far. You spot a few signs of habitation, old food packs, a busted water purifier, a sock, just one, crusted with dirt and something darker. But no people, not anymore. The air changes too. It's not the staleness of recycled oxygen or the bitter metal of machines. It's sweet, sickly sweet, like rotting mangoes, and it lingers in your throat. Then comes the singing, faint, just on the edge of hearing, a child's voice, maybe wordless, humming. You freeze. It stops. You wait. Nothing. You keep moving. Somewhere around mile 160, the tunnel forks again, but not cleanly. This one's a jagged tear in the wall, like something burst through. The floor dips, angles downward at a steeper grade. Against your better judgment, you descend. The walls here are scorched, not by fire, by friction. Burn marks drag down the length of the corridor in streaks, like something massive clawed its way forward while the tunnel was still forming. And on the walls, symbols again, not etched, painted, red, sticky. They're in a spiral, pulling your gaze toward a central point you don't reach, because the passage collapses into rubble. The air here is heavier, wetter. You spot mold blooming on the ceiling, thick, black mold, the kind that stinks like damp socks and forgotten fridges. You gag. Then you turn and find a camera, not one of theirs. Yours? Well, not yours exactly, but the same model you used on day one. Same cracked lens, same hand-etched initials on the side, Y-T. Your initials, except you never brought a camera. You pick it up. It's warm. Someone's been here recently. Someone like you, back on the main path. You continue toward mile 180. The tunnel has been reinforced here, multiple layers of carbon mesh, and something called permalatus, which one worker earlier told you was banned for civilian use due to uncontrollable quantum bleeding. You didn't ask for clarification. Now you wish you had, because at mile 182, you find a sealed door, round, bolted from your side. You hesitate, then unseal it. Beyond is a chamber, unlike anything else so far. Not a work zone, not a lab, a cathedral. That's the only word that fits. The ceiling arches high above you, traced with glowing blue veins that pulse in slow rhythm. The floor is glass, but beneath it's soil, grass, trees, a whole miniature forest, sunlit from a source you can't see. You kneel, press your palm to the glass. It's warm, and then the trees move, not swaying, not breezing, shifting. One moment they're birch, next moment pine, then mangroves. Time lapse, no. Real time, rewriting itself. You stumble back. This isn't a garden. It's a simulation chamber, an environment engine, and someone's been using it to test something very specific survivability. You check a nearby console. The logs go back centuries, actual centuries. 1774, 1916, 2023, 2099. Some of the dates haven't happened yet. You scroll down, there it is again. Your initials, YT, entered 5.1225. Status unknown. You back away, quickly. Behind you, a shadow crosses the far end of the room. You turn, nothing. But the door you came through is closing on its own. You sprint. Just make it through. The door slams shut behind you. You keep going. Mile 190. A side room hums with energy. You step in, curious, and find something impossibly out of place. A classroom. Desks. A chalkboard. A globe. Children's drawings taped to the wall. Each shows the same thing, a tunnel. A red dot labeled "You are here." A dark shape waiting at the other end. In the corner sits a woman, real, alive, breathing, eyes open, staring at the wall. You speak, no response. You approach. Her skin is pale, translucent, veins visible like lines on a map. She blinks once, then says, "They built this to bury something." You freeze. She continues, voice thin and distant. "It crawled up once, long ago. They thought they could trap it underground, so they dug, not to reach it, but to contain it." You ask what it is. She just says the end of the story. Then she closes her eyes. You don't try to wake her again. At mile 195, the tunnel narrows. You stoop. It's colder now. Not just chilly wrong cold. The kind of cold that feels like it's remembering your temperature and deciding it doesn't like it. You reach a section where the walls pulse red, then green, then blue. Some kind of energy test, mood lighting. No, it's not for you. It's to deter something. You remember that clawed passage, it's back. More gouges now, deep ones, and you realize whatever made them is gaining. You pick up the pace. Mile 199. One last alcove. A metal plaque screwed into the wall reads, "If you reach this far, run." Below it, someone has scratched in a new message. It's already behind you. You turn, nothing there. Of course, you step into mile 200, and the tunnel goes dark. Completely. A voice yours whispers, "Welcome back." You don't remember sitting down, but you are sitting flat on the floor, legs stretched in front of you, palms bracing the tunnel walls like you might fall backward if you let go. The darkness is so complete it feels textured, like velvet soaked in ink. No light from behind, no light ahead, just a void. Then something buzzes near your ear. Not mechanical, biological, wings. You swat reflexively, and your hand hits something soft, feathery. Not a bird, not a moth. It's gone before you can process it, but your fingertips come away sticky. You blink, trying to will your pupils to dilate more than humanly possible. Then far ahead, an orange glow, not steady, flickering, fire. You move toward it, slowly. The ground here is different, spongy. There's a gyve underfoot, like the tunnel is lined with compressed moss. It smells like ammonia and burnt toast. As you draw closer to the glow, you begin to hear sounds again, low murmurs, guttural clicks, and the occasional distant clang like metal striking bone. You're pretty sure that's not an OSHA-approved workplace condition. Then you arrive, mile 210. The chamber opens suddenly, and you're not alone. A dozen figures surround a pit in the center, backlit by an open flame that shouldn't be burning this deep without oxygen. They're dressed like miners, but old world ones. Pickaxes, oil lanterns, soot-slicked faces. One turns to you. He's got a 19th century beard and eyes that glow faintly blue. He doesn't speak. None of them do. Instead, he points down into the pit. You approach and see a mirror, at least. That's what it looks like at first, shiny, silver, and shifting, but it reflects nothing. You wave your hand over it, no response. Then you lower your hand closer. It pulls, just a whisper of suction, like a vacuum opening in reverse. You yank your hand back, heart pounding. The blue-eyed man nods, satisfied, and turns away. The others follow, one by one. They walk into side tunnels that seem to have appeared out of nowhere. Within seconds, you're alone again. You check the tablet. No signal, no GPS. Just one word blinking at the bottom of the screen. Threshold. Historians still argue whether the notion of thin places, those supposedly mystical sites where the boundary between worlds is more porous, was just spiritual metaphor or something more. But now, you wonder if the tunnel wasn't just built through the earth. Maybe it was built through layers of something else. You move forward. Mile 215, a maintenance shaft breaks away to the left. It's half collapsed, but a faint hum leaks out of it. Curiosity wins. You crawl inside. The hum becomes clearer. Voices. And not just any voices. Your voice, and your mother's, and your 5th grade math teacher, and a voicemail you left for someone you haven't spoken to in a decade. All murmuring, overlapping, like a skipping record of your life. You crawl faster, heart hammering. The shaft dead ends at a glass window. Behind it, a room full of reels, spools of film and magnetic tape. Thousands of them, labeled with names, dates, fragments. One reads, First Dream, age 3. Another, March 14th of the 2022. Thought you forgot. This isn't a memory archive. This is a surveillance room, but not of the tunnel, of you. Someone or something has been watching your life like a movie, editing, rewinding, replaying. A speaker crackles to life, a woman's voice, eerily calm. This was all supposed to stay buried. You bolt back in the main tunnel. The air feels different, warmer, charged. You pass a panel labeled Containment Protocol Echoes 9. The light above it is blinking yellow, a warning. Beyond it, you find something you didn't expect. Another group of people, real ones, breathing, blinking, moving. About 20 workers in standard jumpsuits are camped around a glowing pillar. It hums with steady, bass-deep rhythm. Some sleep, others monitor readouts or stir metallic stew in dented pots. A woman greets you. You made it to base camp. You ask what this place is, midpoint, or as close as we can measure. She hands you a small black cube. Put this in your pocket. If it starts to vibrate, don't stop moving, not for anything. You ask what it's for. She shrugs. It's a proximity sensor. You ask, proximity to what? She looks at the floor and doesn't answer. You sit by the fire. No one asks your name. No one introduces themselves. It's like everyone already knows who you are. Or maybe they've given up on identity altogether. Someone passes you a bowl of stew. It tastes like mushrooms and wet pennies. You manage a few bites before someone screams. Everyone jumps to their feet. One of the men stares into the tunnel ahead. It's coming again. You squint. Nothing visible, but your cube vibrates. Fast. The woman grabs your hand. Run. You don't ask questions. Everyone sprints. No formation, no drill, just chaos. Behind you, a low howl begins like wind dragged through 100 throats. You glance back once. You see nothing, but the fire is out, and the pillar is cracked in half. Mile 230. Your feet ache. Your legs burn. The tunnel seems to stretch longer the faster you move. It bends upward, then downward again, like you're trapped in a sine wave with no exit. You finally stop when the cube goes still, breathing hard. You look up and see a sign painted directly onto the wall. You are now below sea level. That's impossible. You were already hundreds of meters down. You check the wall. Condensation forms beads of water running upward. You place your hand on the wall. It's vibrating, not from something outside, from something inside. You step back. The wall bulges, then retreats, like it's breathing. And you remember what the woman in the classroom said. They built this to bury something. Maybe you've finally reached it. But then, just when you think you're close to some kind of revelation, the tunnel opens into a new chamber round, metallic, humming. In the center, a machine. It's like nothing you've ever seen, part satellite, part steam engine, part organ. Tubes wind in and out of it like intestines. Lights blink randomly. Steam hisses. There's a hatch. A sign reads, "Entry permitted once, exit unknown." You stare at it and realize something strange. You've seen this machine before, not in a lab, not in a book, in a dream. A recurring dream you had for years as a child, always the same structure, always the same pull toward it, but never reaching the hatch. Until now, your hand touches the handle. It's warm, and something inside knocks. Once, twice, then silence. The hatch doesn't open on its own. You pull gently, half expecting resistance, but it swings outward with a soft hiss, like the sigh of a reluctant secret finally giving up. Warm air washes over your face, tinged with metal and something else. Ozone cinnamon, you can't decide, but it's oddly nostalgic. Inside the machine, the space is barely large enough to stand. A chair anchors the center, surrounded by levers, switches, a few softly pulsing screens that mean absolutely nothing to you. Or should they? One of the panels is blinking, flashing the word, "Seat occupied." Yes, but the chair is empty. You step inside. The hatch seals behind you with a mechanical K-chunk. No override. No handle on this side. Cute. As the lights dim, a low hum begins. Not from any obvious source, but from below, as though the tunnel itself is generating sound. Through a small porthole at your feet, you can see the floor retracting. The machine isn't sitting on the tunnel floor. It's suspended, hanging in an open shaft that plunges deeper than anything you've encountered yet. And the machine is moving, down, gently, gracefully, like an elevator on morphine. You sit in the chair. It adjusts automatically to your shape, which is creepy, also oddly comforting. On a nearby monitor, text scrolls in a language you don't recognize. Then blink English. Environment stable. Time vector unfixed. Subject ID YT. You say out loud, "That's not possible." A female voice responds. Polite but flat possibility is irrelevant. Stability is adequate. You ask where you're going. Forward, then backward, then through. The machine picks up speed. Tunnel walls blur, then vanish. Outside the porthole stars, not metaphorical ones, actual glittering stars. You are no longer underground. You are nowhere, or rather, elsewhere. The chair vibrates. A needle extends from the armrest. You pull away, but the voice chimes again. Memory sync required. Please remain still. Before you can react, the needle pricks your skin. Not painful, but oddly electric. Images flood your vision, not yours. You see men in Roman armor digging trenches that vanish as fast as they're carved. An Inca priest whispering to a pile of stones that glow blue in moonlight. A French engineer in 1842 sketching a tunnel blueprint identical to the one you've walked. And a child curly-haired, barefoot, drawing spirals in the dirt. The spirals match the ones on the walls. That child turns. You see their face. It's yours. You lurch in the chair, but the machine just keeps humming. A moment later, gravity returns, or some version of it. The porthole below shows rock again, then machinery, then people. The descent slows. With a soft chime, the hatch pops open. You step out into a tunnel that looks familiar but isn't. The materials are older, worn. The digital markings are gone, replaced by chalk numerals. And the air is thick with the scent of coal and something else. Ozone again. A voice calls from behind. Did it work? You turn. A man stands there in overalls, smudged with soot, holding a clipboard. Behind him, more workers. Actual 20th century workers. You recognize the tools, the faces. You've seen them in black and white photos. He peers at you. You're the new tech, right? The one from HQ. You nod before your mouth agrees. He waves you forward. Come on then. We've hit another anomaly. Keeps pulsing through the rock like it's alive. You follow him. The year is 1962. Somehow, you've arrived in the middle of the Cold War, and you're wearing the same clothes you started with, but no one seems to notice. Or maybe they don't want to. This portion of the tunnel is being bored with equipment you've only seen in museums. Diesel-belching monsters with names stenciled in cursive Gloria. Mary Sue, Echo Devil. As you pass one of the rigs, an older worker pulls you aside. You need to be careful, he whispers. It's listening again. You ask what it is. He just says, we buried it once before, but the earth doesn't forget. It remembers what we hide inside it. A historian once claimed the U.S. government built parts of the interstate highway system with a dual purpose, not just to transport cars, but to function as makeshift runways for nuclear bombers. The idea that infrastructure could have hidden intentions isn't new, but here underground it's literal. You follow the crew toward the anomaly site. It's a glowing crack in the rock wall, pulsing like a heartbeat. Instruments around it are shorting out. Watches freeze. Radios hum with voices that don't belong to this year. You get too close and feel your body tingle like your atoms are negotiating their rental agreement. Someone tosses a rock into the crack. It disappears. No splash, no bounce, no sound, just gone. The foreman crosses his arms. We're sealing it up. You speak before thinking you can't. Everyone turns to stare. You add, it's part of a containment layer. If you block it, it'll reroute. The foreman blinks. How would you know that? You don't answer, because you suddenly do know. In fact, you know a lot of things you didn't 5 minutes ago, like how the tunnel wasn't meant to reach a destination. It was meant to circle something, to bind it in. A tunnel shaped not like a straight line, but a spiral, a coil, a cage, and you're not walking toward the center. You're walking around it, forever. You retreat, heart pounding. The air begins to shift again. A faint rumble echoes down the corridor, louder than before. The foreman mutters, another tremor, but you know it's not. The machine is calling you back. You sprint, ignoring the shouts behind you, the confusion, the flickering lights. Back to the capsule, back to the chair. You slam the hatch. The machine doesn't ask for permission. It launches, this time upward, through bedrock, through strata, through reality. You pass eras like streetlights, a year labeled only with question marks. Finally, the capsule slows. You emerge into a tunnel made not of metal or stone, but of light. Every footstep echoes like a bell. Figures float at the edges. Not ghosts, not people, silhouettes of possibility. One speaks, or maybe you just hear it, deep inside your own bones. You've gone too far forward, and now backward is the only path. You turn, and the tunnel shifts again. You're back underground, only now the walls are covered in writing. Dozens of languages, hundreds of hands, all saying the same thing. Don't let it out. You stand in that glowing hallway of warnings, still blinking as your vision adjusts to this softer, golden light. It doesn't come from bulbs or torches. It's as if the air itself has learned to glow. The phrases, "don't let it out," are scrawled in languages both known and unknown. Some look freshly scratched in charcoal. Others are etched in eroded stone, worn smooth by time. Your breath fogs faintly, even though the temperature feels neutral. The air here is heavy with silence, not quiet silence, the kind you feel in your teeth. Then whir, click, a door ahead unlocks itself. You're not surprised anymore. You step into what looks like a control room, or perhaps a command center. It's vast. Think Bond villain headquarters, minus the villain, plus a sense of intense loneliness. Consoles line the walls, covered in switches and buttons that blink just enough to suggest purpose. A long, curved window stretches across one side, but instead of looking outside, it looks deeper into it. Beyond the glass is a chamber, not empty. Something pulses inside, enormous and vague, like staring at a whale beneath deep ocean water. You can't tell its size, its edges. It shifts, not bodily, conceptually. You whisper, "What is that?" And someone answers, a woman, real, sitting at one of the consoles. She doesn't look up, just taps a button and mutters, "No one knows. We just keep it asleep." You approach slowly. "Who are you?" She shrugs. "Shift supervisor, third generation. My grandfather helped dig this stretch. My father kept the lights running. I monitor anomalies. Welcome to Relay 6. She finally turns. Her eyes are bloodshot, her voice hoarse. You notice a mug beside her that reads, "Ask me about the worm." You don't ask. She gestures to the window. "We call it the worm, but that's just tradition. Could be an old god. Could be a collapsed thought form. Could be the universe's anxiety, balled up and stored away." She smiles weakly. Historians still argue whether it's alive. You glance again at the dark mass. It hasn't moved, and yet it feels like it's breathing. A red light flashes on the console. "Ah," she says. "Time pocket breach in corridor 7B. You might want to stay out of that one, unless you enjoy 13th century plague dust." The humor lands, but barely. Your stomach churns. You lean on the edge of a console to steady yourself. The surface is warm, faintly vibrating. "Why was the tunnel dug?" you ask. She exhales slowly. Containment, guidance, redirection. The first crews thought they were mining uranium. They weren't. They were laying down anchors, sigil points. You remember the spiral you walked, the sense of circling. It's a prison. Not quite. She folds her arms. Prisons have bars. This is more of a lullaby. The geometry calms it, keeps it dreaming. You hear a low hum, almost a lullaby itself. It seems to be emanating from the walls. "I think it's lonely," she adds quietly. The idea settles in your chest like a pebble dropped in a pond. You stare through the glass. There's something heartbreakingly isolated about the thing beyond the window. Yes, it's vast and alien, but it's also alone. And for a moment, you wonder what it sees when it dreams. Does it remember the stars? Does it remember? A console beeps. The woman's tone sharpens. "There's a breach in the northeast passage. Tunnel drift? That's bad." She stands. "Come on. You might as well see what you've signed up for." You follow her through an arched hallway where the walls ripple faintly. A maintenance bot skitters by, dragging a cart of blinking rocks. You don't ask. Eventually, you reach the breach site. There's no collapse, not in the physical sense. Instead, there's an opening, a shimmering gap in the tunnel wall, like a vertical puddle. Inside, desert, sand, a camel skeleton, a French bayonet, someone's lunch bag. You realize you're looking at a slice of 1889. The woman explains, "Temporal rift. Sometimes the tunnel threads through time the way it cuts through stone, most close on their own. Some don't. Why not, you ask?" She shrugs. "Depends if it likes what's on the other side." You both watch as the shimmer flickers. She flips a switch on a nearby console, and a blast door begins to lower over the rift. Slow and grinding. You ever heard of the Devil's Highway, she asks. The one in Arizona? The one that used to be Route 666. You nod faintly. There's a rumor, she continues, that the road was renamed not because of superstition, but because that stretch overlapped an old access point, right over one of the deeper tunnel coils. That's why the accident rates were off the charts. She smirks. But sure, blame it on the number. You ask how many other access points there are. Her smile fades. Too many, and not all of them are sealed anymore. A klaxon sounds from deeper in the station. Containment breach. Secondary loop. A voice drones overhead. Subject activity rising. You turn to her. What now? She taps a panel. Her voice is calm. Too calm. We ride the spiral. Of course. And that's when the floor shudders. A deep, resonant thud echoes from the chamber. The wormit has moved, just slightly, but enough to shake the walls. Lights flicker, panels spark. From somewhere down the corridor, a voice begins singing. Not a human voice, not a language. The sound goes straight into your brain. Not painful, just wrong, like remembering a dream that never belonged to you. The woman grabs your arm. We need to get you out. But I just got here. You protest, dazed. That's why you're still safe. She leads you through twisting corridors. The tunnel's materials begin to shift again. Metal to clay, clay to stone, stone to light. You pass a carved wall with familiar symbols, spirals, teeth, an hourglass shape with no sand. A single sentence glows above it all. To dig is to remember. To remember is to wake. You reach the capsule. Your capsule, it's waiting. Door ajar, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Will it take me home, you ask? The woman tilts her head. What year is that? Again, you answer. She sighs. No promises. You step inside. The hatch seals. Everything goes quiet. For one heartbeat, you think you see her silhouette behind the glass, waving, and then it's gone. The machine surges, and the tunnel begins to dissolve. The sensation of movement returns not as speed, but as memory. Not yours, someone else's. Hundreds of them. Generations of hands digging, sweating, whispering into the rock. You feel each blow of the pickaxe, each blister, each gasp when the stone groans back. You're not falling, not flying. You're slipping like a page being turned. And then you're standing on a quiet platform. It's made of marble, polished, but not pristine, cracked in places, as if something enormous once passed through and left behind. Grace. The lighting is soft, like candlelight. Without the flame, you breathe in and smell old parchment, burnt sugar, and faintly ozone. A man sits on a bench ahead. Suit too nice for a place like this. Tea a little loose. Eyes dark as tunnels. You made it, he says without turning. Where am I? He pats the bench. You sit. You're in the memory of the tunnel, the part that doesn't forget. You glance around. There's no visible exit. Why am I here? Because it's nearly awake, he says simply. And you were curious. You feel your mouth go dry. The worm, he chuckles. That's just one name, one face. Some called it the Eater of Curves, others the Deep Listener. He finally looks at you. Ever wondered why tunnels echo? You nod slowly. Some say it's because the tunnel repeats what it hears. But others think it's the tunnel learning, storing sounds, feeding something that listens from inside the stone. He points to the wall. You hadn't noticed before carvings, endless carvings, scenes of digging, of ritual, of celebration, people dancing beside coils, laughing as if they'd won something. He whispers, "They didn't build the tunnel to hide it. They built it to talk to it." You look back, but we were told containment, anchors, spirals. All true, he nods, and also wrong. You can't contain an idea this old. You can only negotiate. The lights dim, somewhere far off. You hear the soft rattle of chains. Why secrecy, you ask? Why hide the digging, the maps, the crews? He shrugs. Because humans don't like to know they're not in control, or that they're not alone. Easier to make it about uranium, rail lines, classified contracts. You exhale. So we lied to ourselves. No, he says kindly. You gave yourselves stories, which is the only kind of truth that tunnels respect. He stands, brushing imaginary dust from his slacks. Now, he says, it's time to decide. Decide what he raises a hand. Suddenly, you're standing again not on the platform, but on the spiral staircase from before, the one winding ever inward. The stone beneath your feet pulses. There's no one else around. His voice comes from everywhere now. You've seen what lies beneath. You've walked the carved corridors, touched the humming sigils, felt the warmth of the old machine. You've stared into the breathing heart of something that might be sleeping or pretending. The spiral hums louder, a low chant beneath the stone. You can choose to forget, to leave this place with a fractured dream and a strange twitch in your step. You'll eat cereal and frown at tunnels on road trips, wondering why they make your chest ache. The air tightens, almost playful, or you can stay, add your voice to the hum, help keep the worm dreaming, learn the deeper names, discover what lies beyond the last turn of the spiral. And now, you feel it, a sense of weight behind you, presence, no shape, no threat, just enormity, like standing too close to a mountain that hasn't decided whether it wants to be real. You swallow. You probably won't survive this, he whispers with a grin. But hey, someone has to keep the lights on. There's a door in front of you now. No knob, no lock, just your hand. You reach out and pause, because behind the door, something waits. Not malicious, not eager, just ready. You touch the surface, and you're lying in bed, your real bed, sheets tangled, fan spinning, nightlight humming. Your phone buzzes. It's 3:33 a.m. You sit up. There's a taste in your mouth like copper and honey. Your shoes are muddy on your palm. In faint red ink, a spiral. You don't remember falling asleep, but you remember everything else. The tunnel, the humming, the worm, and as you lie back down, trying to convince yourself it was just a dream, you swear you hear a faint echo beneath your pillow. Not a sound, more like a breath, a slow, steady inhale, and a whisper, curled in the dark. To dig is to remember. And now, as the echoes quiet and the last rumble fades into the dark, you find yourself drifting not through tunnels or timelines, but back into your own breath. Let it slow, let it settle. The story is still there, coiled gently like a sleeping thought behind your eyes. But for now, there's no need to dig any deeper. You've walked 1,000 miles tonight, past secrets never meant to surface, past warnings etched in languages long gone, and past the humming pulse of something ancient and uncertain, whether it was truth or dream, or both. Well, that's part of the spell, isn't it? Your fingers relax, your jaw unclenches. Let the details blur a little. The spiral will remember for you. You're safe here. No echo follows you. No door waits behind your eyelids. Just the hush of night, the soft murmur of your room, and the warm gravity of your blanket pulling you inward, not down. You've heard the song of the tunnel, and you returned. That's enough for tonight. So stretch once, just lightly. Turn your pillow to the cool side, and let the world go quiet again. The story is over. See you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.